I glide through the entrance of the Rosecliff mansion, my heels clicking confidently against marble floors that have welcomed Newport elite for over a century. The ocean breeze carries the scent of salt and money through open French doors. Strings play Pachelbel while waiters balance silver trays of champagne flutes that catch the afternoon sun. Everything is perfect: the cascading white flowers, the crystal chandeliers, the Atlantic Ocean stretching beyond manicured lawns. Everything except my growing sense that something isn't right. My brother Scott stands near a limestone fireplace, laughing with college friends. He looks up, catches my eye, and his smile flickers for just a heartbeat before returning brighter than before. Too bright. "Miss Hartley?" The young usher with slicked back hair consults his list, flipping the page, then back again. "I'm not seeing. Let me check with the coordinator." A cold prickle starts between my shoulder blades as I watch him hustle over to a woman clutching a tablet. Their heads bend together. She glances at me, frowning. "There must be some mistake," I murmur to no one. The coordinator approaches, tablet pressed against her chest like armor. "Miss Hartley, welcome. We do have you on our list." Her smile is professional but tight. "Let me show you to your table." We bypass elegant place settings adorned with calligraphy cards and fresh orchids. We pass tables with perfect views of the head table. We keep walking. And walking. Until we're behind a decorative screen, near swinging doors that lead to the kitchen. A small round table sits alone, its tablecloth visibly wrinkled, place settings misaligned. My place card: Lauren Hartley sits next to a sign reading "Restrooms." Is this some kind of joke? My voice sounds distant in my own ears. "I'm so sorry for any confusion," the coordinator says, already backing away. "The seating was finalized by the bride yesterday." Before I can respond, Savannah floats toward me in a cloud of white tulle and smugness. Her honeyed accent drips with false warmth. "Lauren, so glad you could make it." She air kisses near my cheek, careful not to smudge her makeup. "There's been a mistake with my seating," I say, gesturing to the isolation table. Savannah's smile hardens. "No mistake at all. We had to make some last-minute adjustments. You understand how these things go." "Actually, I don't." "This isn't your boardroom, Lauren. Sit where you're told." She delivers this with such sweet venom that for a moment I'm speechless. As she swans away, my mind flashes back to just 3 months ago, my office overlooking Austin's skyline, Gregory Mercer, Savannah's father, sitting across from me, pen poised over our contract. "This logistics system of yours," he had said, "it's revolutionary. You've solved problems we've been wrestling with for years." I remember his firm handshake, the weight of the moment as he signed the $25 million contract. How he'd walked the halls of Hartley Innovations, meeting my team of 52 employees, people who'd believed in my vision when it was nothing but flowcharts on my apartment walls. 3 weeks, he'd marveled. "You fixed our supply chain bottlenecks in 3 weeks when our own people couldn't crack it in 3 years. Now his daughter has placed me by the kitchen door. I smooth my navy dress and think about all the family gatherings where my accomplishments vanished into thin air. The Thanksgiving when my father asked Scott about his golf game for 30 minutes, then turned to me with, "That computer thing still working out?" The Christmas dinner last year when I mentioned securing $10 million in funding, and my mother interrupted, "Did you hear Scott won his club tournament? Against professional players?" I straighten the wrinkled tablecloth, my fingers tracing the worn edge. The kitchen doors swing open and closed, servers bustling past with barely a glance. Then I spot them. 3 tables over, prime seating with ocean views, Johnson, Ramirez, and Whitfield Mercer Holdings executives, my clients, people whose businesses I transformed. They raise glasses toward the head table, unaware of where their savior has been stashed. I reach for my phone, fingers steady despite the heat coursing through me. I scroll to Rachel's "Contact my COO," my right hand since we worked from my garage. "Rachel," I say softly when she answers. "Trigger the termination clause in Section 4.3 of the SLA. Effective immediately." A pause. "Lauren, that's the nuclear option. Are you sure?" I watch Savannah laughing with her bridesmaids, Scott's arm around her waist, my parents beaming at their golden son. "Pull the EDI feeds," I add. "They'll feel it in their backlog by morning." I end the call, pluck a champagne flute from a passing server, and take a deliberate sip. The bubbles feel like victory on my tongue. Let the kitchen doors swing. I've just closed a different door entirely. Gregory Mercer's phone chirps for the third time in 5 minutes. His forehead creases as he steps away from the head table, phone pressed to his ear. From across the reception, I watch his posture stiffen, his free hand clenching into a fist. The wedding band plays Fly Me to the Moon while Scott whispers something to Savannah. He scans the room, catches sight of his new father-in-law, then finds my gaze. His eyes narrow with confusion as two men in dark suits, Mercer Holdings executives I recognize from boardroom presentations, make hasty excuses to the table beside them and head for the exit. I sip my champagne, smoothing the wrinkles from my dress. The bubbles taste sweeter now. What did you do? Mason slides into the empty chair beside me, his navy suit jacket unbuttoned, tie slightly askew from his rush to arrive. His flight from Chicago landed an hour ago. You're late. I lean over and kiss his cheek, breathing in his familiar sandalwood cologne. Mason glances toward Gregory Mercer, now pacing by the French doors, phone still clutched to his ear. You did it, didn't you? I shrug one shoulder, the gesture deceptively casual. They seated me by the kitchen door. His eyes widen, taking in my isolated table, the restroom sign nearby. Then he looks back at me, a slow smile spreading across his face. Their loss. We mingle through cocktail hour, Mason's hand resting lightly against my back as we navigate clusters of guests. My parents avoid eye contact when we pass. By the time the band takes their first break, 4 more Mercer Holdings executives have disappeared. Lauren. Scott's voice cuts through the buzz of conversation as he steps onto the terrace where Mason and I stand admiring the Atlantic. A word? Mason squeezes my elbow. I'll grab us fresh drinks. When he's gone, Scott moves closer, lowering his voice. What did you do? Gregory's been on his phone all night. Something about server access codes and shipping containers sitting idle in 3 ports. Fascinating. I stare out at the ocean, the waves catching golden hour light. This is my wedding day. His voice carries an edge I've heard before, the same tone he used when explaining to our parents why he borrowed my college fund for his failed restaurant venture. Whatever business dispute you have with Mercer Holdings could have waited. Like your wedding planner could have waited to put my table by the bathroom? I turn to face him. Or did Savannah make that call herself? Scott runs a hand through his hair, mussing the careful styling. Look, it's not personal. They had to make adjustments. Funny, that's what I told my team when I called them. I swirl the last sip of champagne in my glass. Just a business adjustment. You don't understand. He steps closer, lowering his voice. I've been working on Gregory for months, positioning myself for a VP slot at Mercer. I couldn't have him thinking my sister was some tech genius who saved his company. The truth lands like a slap. You knew about my contract with them. Of course I knew. His laugh holds no humor. Why do you think I introduced Savannah to Mom and Dad so quickly? I needed to get close to Gregory. Your little logistics system was my foot in the door. My little system that solved problems their team couldn't crack in 3 years. Scott straightens his cuffs, a gesture inherited from our father. It's just business, Lauren, nothing personal. The wedding band starts up again inside, a cheerful rendition of That's Amore that feels jarringly out of place. You're right, Scott. My voice stays steady as I meet his eyes. It is just business. His shoulders relax, mistaking my calm for acceptance. By morning, Mercer Holdings will have lost access to their entire logistics system. I drain my glass. The backlog has already started. I'd estimate they'll lose about $3 million in revenue by dawn, another 20 by end of week. The color drains from his face. You can't do that. I already did. I set my empty glass on the stone balustrade. The termination clause was very clear. Section 4.3, breach of confidentiality and good faith. When you minimized my role to the Mercers, you breached our agreement. Lauren. Miss Hartley. A deep voice interrupts us. Thomas Harrington from Anderson Logistics approaches, hand extended. I didn't realize you'd be here tonight. Your presentation at Freightwaves last month was brilliant. I shake his hand, noting Scott's confusion. Mr. Harrington, lovely to see you again. I've been meaning to call your office. He hands me a business card. We should talk next week. Before Scott can respond, Gerald Winters from Claymore Capital appears at my elbow. Lauren Hartley. Finally, we meet in person. His silver hair catches the setting sun. I've been watching your work. Very impressive. Mason returns with our drinks, sliding seamlessly into the conversation. His steady presence grounds me as three more industry contacts approach, each with knowing looks at Gregory's continued phone crisis. An hour later, as the cake is cut, Mason and I make our way to the head table. Congratulations, I tell Scott and Savannah, my smile professional and detached. Beautiful ceremony. Savannah's smile freezes as her father approaches, face ashen. We need to talk, he mutters to Scott. As we turn to leave, my father intercepts us near the grand entrance. What happened with Gregory? His voice wavers between anger and panic. He says there's some problem with your contract. I reach into my clutch and remove a Hartley Innovations brochure, the one featuring our client testimonials and industry awards. I built my company on respect, I say, pressing it into his hand. I won't compromise that even for family. Mason's hand finds the small of my back as we walk through the mansion's grand foyer. Behind us, the band plays on, but the melody no longer reaches us. I think of all the things I did 3 years ago. From the start, I wake with a jolt, my neck stiff from sleeping at an unnatural angle. For a disorienting moment, I forget where I am. Not my apartment, not a hotel. The small sofa in my office unfolds into what barely qualifies as a bed. The springs dig into my back, a daily reminder of the choices I've made. Dawn breaks outside the single window of what was once a storage room in an unremarkable office park on the outskirts of Austin. The bathroom down the hall is shared with 3 other struggling startups. The shower works half the time. My whiteboard dominates the Walla constellation of flowcharts, middleware integration plans, and arrows connecting transport management systems. To most people, it looks like the work of someone unraveling. To me, it's the future of logistics. You slept here again. Rachel stands in the doorway, coffee extended like an olive branch. Her dark circles match mine. She's been with me since day one, turning down a corner office at Maersk to join my little project, as my mother calls it. The algorithm needed tweaking. I accept the coffee, black and strong enough to stand a spoon in. I think I fixed the capacity planning issue. That's what you said last night, and the night before. She perches on the edge of my desk door balanced on 2 filing cabinets. Your brother called, twice. I scroll through missed calls on my phone. 4 from Scott, 2 from my mother, none from potential clients. He's worried about you. Rachel's tone is neutral, but her raised eyebrow says everything. Is he worried, or is he checking to see if I've failed yet? I slug back coffee that burns all the way down. What time is the Pac West call? 11. Are you wearing that? I look down at my wrinkled blouse. 3 days worn. I have a change in my bag. By 10, the office fills with the skeleton crew I call a team. 5 brilliant minds who believed in my vision when it was nothing but sketches on napkins. Takeout containers from last night's working dinner litter the conference table, another door, wider, supported by sawhorses. Marcus hunches over 3 monitors, debugging code that will route thousands of trucks more efficiently than any human dispatcher could. Jada and Elton argue over bandwidth requirements, while Tim assembles another server from parts we bought at discount. These people could work anywhere, Google, Amazon. Instead, they're here, in a glorified closet with spotty air conditioning, because they believe in what we're building. At 10:58, we gather around my laptop. PacWest Shipping manages one of the largest fleets on the West Coast. If they sign, we survive another quarter. If they don't, we've got this, Rachel whispers as the video call connects. 4 faces appear on screen. Men in their 50s, weathered by decades in an industry that still largely runs on paper and phone calls. Miss Hartley, the oldest of them, nods. Show us what you've got. For the next 40 minutes, I walk them through our solution to their backhaul problem: empty trucks returning from deliveries, burning fuel and money. Our algorithm identifies potential loads within a 70-mile radius, calculating time, fuel, and driver hours to maximize efficiency. This is theoretical. The operations manager frowns. No, sir. I share my screen, showing live data from our pilot with a smaller carrier. This is happening now. Their empty miles dropped by 23% in the first month. Something shifts in their expressions. The slight lean forward, the narrowed eyes of men seeing money being saved. When the call ends, the office falls silent. Did they? Tim starts. They want a proposal by Friday. My voice doesn't sound like my own. They have 10,000 trucks. The room erupts. High fives. Hugs. Tim pops a bottle of cheap champagne reserved for this moment. But celebration is brief in a startup running on fumes. We need to draft the proposal, Rachel says, ever practical. And we need to make payroll on Monday. Month 11, the hardest month. Our seed funding stretched to breaking. The small business loan denied when the bank manager suggested, with a patronizing smile, that perhaps my father could co-sign. That night, after everyone leaves, I call the dealership. How much for the Audi? I ask, staring at the car I bought when we landed our first client. The one luxury I allowed myself. The next morning, I take an Uber to work, carrying envelopes with each team member's salary. Cash, because the company account shows a balance of $212.63. That afternoon, Scott visits. He surveys the office with the benevolent smile of someone who's never had to prove himself. Hartley Construction was our father's company, Scott's birthright. Lauren, this is. He searches for a word that won't offend. Determined. That's one word for it. Dad asked me to check on you. He straightens a stack of papers on my desk, restoring order to my chaos. There's always a place for you at Hartley. Full benefits. Corner office overlooking downtown. The offer hangs between us. Safety, security, surrender. I'm fine, Scott. Are you? He gestures to my makeshift bed. Mom says you missed Sunday dinner again. She worries. Sunday dinner, where my father asked about Scott's golf handicap for 20 minutes, then turned to me with a dismissive, "How's the computer thing going?" Where my mother introduced my business to her friends as Lauren's little project while she figures things out. Tell Mom I'll be there next Sunday, a promise I've made and broken for months. After Scott leaves, I stare at the whiteboard until the symbols blur, the algorithm that will revolutionize how goods move across America, if I can just keep the lights on long enough to finish it. My phone buzzes. A text from my mother. Your father's hosting potential investors tonight. Thought you might want to join us. Wear something nice. Translation. Successful men will be there. Perhaps one will see my unmarried daughter's potential, if not as a businesswoman, then as a wife. I don't reply. Instead, I open my laptop and work on the PacWest proposal until midnight, when the office park security guard knocks on my door. You can't keep sleeping here, Miss Hartley, he says, kindness in his eyes. Building regulations. I nod, gather my things, and call another Uber. To a motel, not home. Home is too far from the office, and tomorrow, I need to be here early. In the motel shower, I finally let myself cry. Quick, efficient tears that solve nothing but release the pressure. Then I towel off, put on the one clean shirt from my bag, and return to my laptop. The PacWest proposal won't write itself, and the wire transfer from selling my car will only cover one more payroll. But on my screen, the algorithm runs beautifully, routing phantom trucks across America with perfect efficiency, saving millions in fuel and time, solving a problem that's plagued the industry for decades. If I can just hold on a little longer. No. 5 days after the wedding, I stand at my office window, watching sailboats cut through harbor waters 30 stories below. The morning sun turns the Atlantic into a field of diamonds. 3 years ago, I couldn't afford an office with a window. Now my view rivals anything Newport has to offer. My phone buzzes with another desperate message from Gregory Mercer. 5th one this week. Lauren, please reconsider. Our operations are... I delete it mid-sentence. The satisfaction feels like butter melting on my tongue. A knock at my door interrupts my moment of quiet victory. Rachel leans in, tablet clutched against her chest. Her curly hair escapes its professional bun, a detail that would have terrified her when we worked from my garage apartment. "They're ready for you in the lab," she says. I follow her through our headquarters. The contrast never fails to surprise me. My modest office with its simple desk and family photos versus the innovation lab that occupies the entire East Wing. Where I keep things functional, the lab gleams with cutting-edge technology, precisely the opposite of what people expect. "Your baby's all grown up," Rachel murmurs as we approach the glass doors. Inside, 52 people move with purpose between workstations. The energy pulses like a heartbeat. My team, my vision made flesh. Mounted prominently on the reception wall hangs the original whiteboard from my apartment, its surface covered in faded marker schematics and coffee stains. I touch it lightly as I pass, a ritual that grounds me. Beside it, a framed headline from last week's Wall Street Journal: "Hartley Innovations redefines logistics tech." "Do they know about Mercer yet?" I ask Rachel. "Industry news just broke this morning." She hands me her tablet, open to FreightWaves. The headline reads, "Mercer Holdings operations stalled after Hartley contract termination." I scan the article quickly. Unprecedented backlog of shipments, customers reporting multi-day delays, stock dropped 14% in early trading. "Your brother called," Rachel adds, "7 times. My stomach tightens. And I told him what you told me to tell him." I remember Scott's face at the wedding when his father-in-law started receiving urgent calls, the dawning horror as Gregory's face turned ashen. The way Scott searched the room until he found me by the kitchen doors, champagne in hand. The image brings unexpected warmth to my chest. "The statement went out?" I ask. Rachel nods. "Your exact words. Hartley Innovations regrets the termination of our relationship with Mercer Holdings due to irreconcilable differences in business philosophy. We remain committed to partnerships built on mutual respect and professional integrity." My phone buzzes again. This time it's a text from Mason. "Have you seen your email? Everyone in logistics is talking." Before I can respond, Aaron, my lead developer, approaches with 3 new contract inquiries, all from Mercer's direct competitors. One offers double our standard rate for expedited onboarding. "Sharks smell blood in the water," I murmur. "Your blood?" Rachel asks. "No," I smile. "Theirs." Back in my office an hour later, I draft the formal email to Mercer Holdings. Professional, unemotional, final. My fingers hover over the keyboard as a memory surfaces. My father at Thanksgiving, turning from Scott's golf stories to ask me dismissively if that computer thing was still working out. I add a line to the email. "While our systems cannot be reinstated, we can recommend several consultants who might help mitigate your current challenges." Kindness as the final twist of the knife. My office phone lights up. The receptionist's voice crackles through the speaker. "Miss Hartley? Your brother Scott is in the lobby. He's quite insistent about seeing you." I glance at the harbor again, watching a small boat battle larger waves. "Send him up." While waiting, I read the industry analysis praising my company's principled stand and commitment to professional standards. How quickly the narrative forms when you control the story. Scott arrives, his perfect suit wrinkled, his golden boy confidence dimmed. He looks like he hasn't slept in days. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" he demands without greeting. I gesture to the chair opposite my desk. "I terminated a contract according to legally binding terms that your father-in-law signed." "You've destroyed him. The wedding was 5 days ago and already his company's falling apart." How unfortunate that he built his operation with such critical dependencies. Scott runs his hands through his hair. "Lauren, please, fix this." "I am fixing it," I say. "Just not for him." His face contorts with a realization I've waited years to witness. "This isn't about the business at all, is it?" I smile. "It's just business, Scott. Nothing personal." My phone buzzes with an email notification. My mother's name appears with the subject line, "Your father doesn't understand what happened." Scott's own phone chimes. He checks it, and what little color remains drains from his face. "Savannah's furious. She says her father's blaming me for not warning him about you." Trouble in paradise already? "This isn't funny, Lauren." I stand, smoothing my skirt. "No, it isn't. Neither was that table by the kitchen." Neither was every Christmas, Thanksgiving, and birthday where my accomplishments vanished into thin air. The courier arrives with a thick envelope bearing the Mercer Holdings logo. Gregory's formal apology, no doubt. I place it unopened on my desk next to Scott's increasingly desperate expression. Too little, I say softly. Too late. The next day, I park my Audi precisely between the chalk-white lines of my parents' circular driveway. The house a sprawling colonial with perfect hedges and patriotic bunting looks exactly as it always has. Immaculate, imposing, untouchable. Mason reaches across the console, his fingers warm against mine. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. I smooth the lapel of my charcoal blazer and check my reflection in the visor mirror. My expression is composed, but my eyes hold a clarity I've never seen before. They requested this meeting. Let's see what they have to say. My mother opens the door before we reach it, her face arranged in the welcoming smile she reserves for country club functions. Lauren! And Mason, how lovely. She kisses my cheek, the scent of Chanel No. 5 briefly transporting me to childhood Sunday dinners. We brought wine. Mason hands her the bottle, a strategic peace offering we discussed but have no illusions about. The formal living room has been abandoned in favor of the sunroom, their attempt at creating a casual atmosphere. My father rises from his leather armchair, his handshake firm but his eyes assessing. Scott sits on the sofa, looking uncomfortable in weekend casual clothes that probably cost more than most people's formal wear. Coffee's ready, my mother announces, bustling in with a silver tray. And I made your favorite apple pie, Lauren. With the cinnamon crust? I ask, knowing the answer. Of course. She beams, as if baking could erase 6 weeks of silence after the wedding disaster. We settle into our positions like chess pieces, Mason beside me on the love seat, my parents across from us, Scott to the side, the exact formation from every family disagreement for the past 20 years. My father clears his throat. Lauren, we asked you here because family should always come first. He leans forward, hands clasped between his knees. The Hartleys have stood together through 3 generations. Your grandfather built our legacy from nothing. I notice he's wearing his Hartley construction cufflinks, the tiny gold bulldozers that once seemed so impressive to me as a child. What your father means, my mother interjects, patting his knee, is that we miss you. This distance isn't good for anyone, especially not for Scott and Savannah, who are just starting their life together. Scott's expression shifts from brooding to eager. I've actually been thinking, Laure. There's huge potential for collaboration between our companies. He pulls out a folded document from his back pocket. I've drafted some ideas for integrated supply chain management across Hartley Construction's projects. We could mentor you, my father adds, with a benevolent smile that turns my stomach. Your mother and I were just telling the Andersons at the club how we helped you secure your initial funding. The room goes completely still. Mason's hand finds mine, a silent anchor. You told people you funded my company? My voice comes out soft but clear. Well, we supported you, my mother says quickly. Emotionally, that's a kind of investment too. I take a slow sip of coffee, placing the cup precisely on its saucer before speaking. Let me make sure I understand. You've been telling people you financially backed Hartley Innovations, a company you once called my little computer hobby. I look directly at my father. The same company you refused to discuss at Thanksgiving dinner 5 years ago because Scott had just won a regional golf tournament? My father's face flushes. Now, Lauren. No, I raise my hand. I've listened to you for 36 years, it's your turn now. I open my leather portfolio and remove a single sheet of paper. This is a list I compiled. Every time someone in this family deliberately undermined my accomplishments. I slide it across the coffee table. Page 1 of 12. Scott shifts uncomfortably. This is ridiculous. Nobody. March 2018. I interrupt. You told Richard Westover that my logistics system was basically just Excel on steroids the night before my presentation to his board. He repeated your exact words to me, Scott. The color drains from his face. I built my company without a single dollar from this family. I made payroll by selling my car. I slept on a pull-out sofa in my office for 8 months while you, I gestured to my parents, told your friends I was finding myself instead of joining the family business. My mother's eyes fill with tears. We just wanted what was best for you. No, You wanted what was convenient for you. I close my portfolio. Here's what happens now. If you want any relationship with me moving forward, there are non-negotiable terms. My father's eyebrows shoot up. Terms? We're your family, not a business contract. First, you will never again claim any part in building Hartley Innovations. You will correct anyone who believes otherwise. I turn to Scott. Second, I will not resume business with Mercer Holdings under any circumstances. The damage is done. Lauren, be reasonable, my father interrupts, his voice rising. Gregory Mercer is losing millions. Your brother's marriage is at stake. Third, I continue as if he hadn't spoken. I require acknowledgement of your behavior, not an apology acknowledgement. I want you to say out loud that you consistently favored Scott and diminished my achievements. The room goes deadly quiet. And finally, I expect to be treated as an equal in this family, not as Scott's little sister, not as Charles Hartley's daughter who plays with computers. As Lauren Hartley, founder and CEO of one of the fastest-growing logistics technology companies in the country, my father stands abruptly, his face contorted. This is outrageous. After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me, Dad? Name one thing. His mouth opens and closes. The silence stretches. My mother begins to cry, not the delicate tears she uses to end arguments, but ugly, genuine sobs that crack her perfect makeup. Scott stares at his hands. The board at Mercer is considering removing Gregory as CEO, he mutters. Savannah blames me. I stand, straightening my blazer. I'll take that as your answer. You can't just walk away from your family, my father says, his voice breaking slightly. I'm not walking away from family, I reply, meeting his gaze steadily. I'm walking away from people who never treated me like family in the first place. Mason and I move toward the door in perfect sync. Behind us, my mother calls my name, her voice small and uncertain. I pause at the threshold, looking back at the three people who share my DNA but failed to share my dreams. I'll be at my office if you decide you're ready to meet my terms. The door closes behind us with a soft click that sounds like freedom. At the present, I stand at the glass wall of our new headquarters, watching the Austin skyline shimmer in the morning light. 6 months have passed since Scott's wedding, and I barely recognize my life. The building beneath my feet, 14 stories of gleaming innovation with our logo mounted in brushed steel, belongs to Hartley Innovations. To me. Miss Hartley? My assistant Amber appears in the doorway. The Singapore team is ready in conference room A. I smooth the lapels of my burgundy blazer. Tell them I'll be right there. The corridor to the conference room spans the length of our innovation center. Engineers huddle around prototype screens, their excitement palpable. 3 years ago, this was all sketches on napkins in my apartment. Now 68 employees, 16 new hires since the Mercer Holdings fallout bring my vision to life daily. I pause at the entrance, observing the international clients through the glass. Their faces light up when I enter, several rising to shake my hand. The logistics tracking system you've developed is revolutionary, says Philippe Durand, extending his hand. We've cut transit time by 32% in our Asian corridors. I smile, remembering Gregory Mercer's similar words. The difference is these clients see me, not just my technology. The meeting flows with the easy rhythm of mutual respect. When we adjourn, I find Mason waiting in my office, his tall frame silhouetted against the window. How did it go? He asks, kissing my cheek. Signed for 3 years with option to extend. I kick off my heels, sinking into my chair. Did you finish the grant proposal for the mentorship program? Mason grins, sliding a folder across my desk. Finalized this morning. 10 women entrepreneurs will have full funding by September. Later that evening, over dinner at Vespaio, Mason reaches for my hand across the table. His thumb brushes over my knuckles before he slips something cool and metallic into my palm. A ring platinum with a small emerald that catches the candlelight. Lauren Hartley, he says, voice steady but eyes revealing vulnerability I rarely see. Will you marry me? The moment feels suspended in time. This is success, not the building with my name on it, but this honest connection with someone who saw my worth when others didn't. Yes, I whisper, sliding the ring onto my finger. Absolutely yes. 2 weeks later, I sit in the quiet of my office, reviewing photos for our company's anniversary celebration. Each image marks a milestone in our journey. The first whiteboard from my apartment, now framed in reception. The team huddled around pizza boxes during our first all-nighter. The day we landed Anderson Freight as a client. Rachel knocks once before entering. Your mother's online too. My hand hovers over the phone. These calls have become monthly occurrences, awkward at first, gradually warming. She's really trying, Rachel says gently before leaving. Mom, I answer, keeping my voice neutral. How are you? I visited your website, she says, and I hear a new note in her voice. Pride? The article about your mentorship program was illuminating. We talk for 20 minutes. She asks questions about my business that she's never bothered to ask before. Progress in small measures. When I mention dinner with Mason's parents next weekend, she doesn't push to be included. Another small victory. That evening, I stand before our gathered team in the company dining hall. Laughter echoes off the walls as Rachel tells the story of our first server crash. This room glows with genuine warmth so different from that isolated wedding table that changed everything. Mason slips his arm around my waist as I raise my glass. To chosen family, I toast. After dinner, we walk to the terrace overlooking the city lights. Mason gestures toward the freight yard visible in the distance. Still pushing freight through data? I twist the engagement ring on my finger, feeling its perfect fit. Always, I reply, leaning into his shoulder. But now, I'm pushing it on my terms.